Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, more details are emerging about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opening at Disneyland, but there are still lots of questions remaining to be answered. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to discuss some tips shared on disboards.com from one poster's recent trip. All that coming up next. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, and points around Southern California, this is the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 761 for the week of March 20th, 2019. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And by disboards.com. Find out everything you need to know about your next trip to Disneyland on our Disneyland forums at disboards.com. Head over and join in the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio here in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined in the studio this week by my good friends, Mr. Rhino Clavin.
Hello.
Mr. Craig Williams.
Hello.
And out in California, the lovely and talented Mr. Tom Bell.
Hey, everyone.
Just one thing in housekeeping that I want to share with everybody. We'd appreciate your thoughts and prayers for Michael Bowling and his family. His wife, Carol, passed away, sadly, last week after a long battle with cancer. As always, Michael is graceful and strong in, what has to be one of the worst times in his life. And I know that the support and outpouring of prayers and good wishes to Michael over the past week have meant the world to him. So just ask all of you to please keep Michael and his family in your thoughts and prayers. So certainly ours are with him. So with that, that's the only thing I have that I really think we need to say for housekeeping. But there are a couple things that we should talk about. First of all, I'm very excited that we'll be out there next week. This time we'll be on the ground. No, we'll be on a plane.
No, we'll be on the ground.
We'll be on the ground.
We go on Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is on Wednesday. Yeah, so the show airs on Wednesday.
Well, I'm saying, like, as I sit here and record this at this moment,
even then, I think we will be on the ground.
Yeah, because I have this habit of putting us on like 6 a.m. flights going out to California.
Yeah, it's 8:30 in California now as we're recording this.
All right, so we'll just be getting ready to land, I think.
Next week. Because this tomorrow. Yeah, this goes out tomorrow, and we're not there tomorrow. Yeah.
No, I said next week.
Okay.
This time next week.
It's hard being time travelers.
It is very difficult.
It's only one day. I am super excited to get back out there, though. I mentioned before I was out in December, so it's my first time of 2019 getting to be in California. And
for me, it's been since October. And when you consider how often I was out there last year, this is like, I can never let this happen again where I go six months without.
Yeah, that's a long time for you.
It is.
Is anybody coming back for the Superheroes Night? Last I looked, there were still tickets available right now.
When is it?
Tell me.
Yeah.
When is it?
April 30th and May 1st.
No.
Because we're coming for Star Wars, and that's the end of May, and that's it's like right in the middle there, It sounds cool.
We may dispatch you for it.
If Tom and I wear capes.
No, if Tom and you wear tights.
Oh, but we have to be like together tights. Like I don't think they'll. I'm not gonna.
Okay, we're gonna move right on.
Yeah.
But very excited to be out there, and we've got a lot of stuff planned for this show that we're gonna film and record while we're out there. We're very excited about that. But something that popped up on the boards this week that I thought was very, very interesting, that was posted on another forum. I believe this was posted on WDW Magic, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong about that. That somebody put on our boards. This is from, they're not sure if this person's a cast member, they must be, but an insider talking about, what Disney has been saying and what they're about to say regarding the opening of Galaxy's Edge. And I'm just going to read from the post. Soon, the Disney Parks blog and a media release will reveal the online process to score one of the staggered reservation windows for entrance into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. But that is just going to be a scam to try and prevent too many annual pass people from showing up casually before summer blockouts begin on June 24th. What's really being planned is that a chunk of the land capacity will be saved each day for a standby line that will be stacked on the Big Thunder Trail. From May 31st, you'll be able to enter Star Wars Galaxy's Edge standby line on the Big Thunder Trail and wait to be let into the land in between pulses of reservation holders. The land entrance will be handled like any other Fast Pass ride, and the Big Thunder Trail entry caves will be the merge point where standby and Fast Pass, effectively, are allowed in alternately. So if I'm reading this correctly, and there's more here, but if I'm reading this correctly, basically what these reservations are Fast Passes to actually get into Galaxy's Edge. Not for the attractions, just to get in to Galaxy's Edge. Fast Pass won't be offered on Falcon anytime soon, so the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge land entrance will be handled like a Fast Pass standby line. No word on how DAS holders, people that are getting the disability passes, will be given priority entrance to the land. So this is one of the things we don't know. People, how that's going to be handled. The theme parks blog is going to play it off in their upcoming announcement that a reservation is the only way to get into the land between May 31st and June 23rd, but that's not the real truth. Now, I do want to stop here for a second and say, this is from a source we don't know.
Yeah.
So any of this could be completely wrong. All of it could be right. I really want to stress that. This is all rumor. This is all rumor.
And even if it is true, right? Let's say everything we're reading is true in this moment. There's still a long time before they could just change. They could say, you know what, this actually isn't going to work. We're going to change it all.
But this was something that I deep down was hoping that would have been eventuality. Like after maybe the first day of doing reservation only, realizing that yes, there are a big group of nerds of us out there who have been following along with every single detail throughout the way. We know when it was going to open. We've been all on that. But that doesn't mean that there's not families out there who booked this before they had the announcement, or just completely out of the blue because they're not listening to podcasts, watching vlogs, and show up and like, hey, I would like to see this. This was a happy surprise. And to just shut the door on them because they're not keeping up on everything constantly, that seems kind of wrong.
Well, that is why with this announcement that they would be doing a reservation system, I knew there's no way, there's just no way they're going to be able to do access strictly by reservation. Mm-hmm. There's no way. They will have a riot on their hands from people, as you're describing there. People who aren't following podcasts and blogs and discussion boards and everything else, that don't know all the detail, that just happen to be there, and Star Wars is open, and, oh, my kid wants to go see Star Wars. What do you mean, no? What do you mean I had to make a reservation?
And I can tell you firsthand, Rhino can the same way, working in a theme park. The amount of people that you believe should know about all this common information is probably like 5%. Most of the people walking around the parks are clueless and oblivious to what is actually happening and following everything behind the scenes. It's a small percentage of us that are very passionate.
How is it handled at Pandora? Weren't there reservations there as well, or
during the annual pass previews?
Yes,
but that is because it's annual pass previews, so they did turn away anyone who wasn't an annual pass holder and said, essentially, this is a private function of sorts.
We don't know that they won't do that here as well. That annual pass previews are a normal part of a new opening. Now, at least they are out here. Tom, has that been the case in California?
Well, I think both for Pixar Pier, they did a $300 party as a preview. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a $450-$500 Star Wars Galaxy's Edge party from May 27th or something.
Yeah, that should happen. I do enjoy the benefits like annual pass holder previews and such, but I see those as a happy bonus when you're really ahead of time. So let's say Disneyland wasn't planning originally on launching Galaxy's Edge until July 1st, and they knew it was going to be ready by May 31st. And if that would have been the case and they said, okay, we'll do 2 weeks of annual pass holder previews and then another 2 weeks after that of soft openings, technical rehearsals, then like that to me makes sense where you should have a dedicated. But if we're looking at like May 31st, there's going to be final touches being put up right up to that last second.
They're already pushing their luck.
Yeah, and if they really are pushing it right to the end there, then absolutely not should they do annual pass holder previews. It's a nice thing when they're ahead of schedule, but if they're not ahead of schedule, there's no point in trying to throw that in there.
And the weekend right before that is Memorial Day, and to open Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's also a matter too where annual passes are concerned. It's a very different dynamic in California with annual pass holders than it is out here. Disneyland has been literally, for the last couple of years, trying to discourage people from becoming annual pass holders by raising the price of, for example, out here, we can get an unrestricted annual pass at Walt Disney World for about $850. That same pass in Disneyland with only 2 parks is like over $1,200. And so that's because they have so many annual pass holders, being that it's more locals park. And I don't know what the exact ratio of locals to tourists are, but it's completely opposite here than it is in California. So if it's 80% tourists here and 20% locals, it's 80% locals and 20% tourists out in California.
I think at one point we were bumping up against 1 million annual pass holders.
Yeah. So that's incredible. So I think that's why they are concerned and doing this staggered release. And when we talk about the blockout dates, many of the passes that are available for annual passes at Disneyland are limited passes. They have blockout dates depending on the pass you buy. So, which is why the unlimited pass is $1,200 a year. So that starts on June 23rd, I said? Yeah. Or June 24th. The blockouts start for the summer. So they're worried that there's going to be all these annual pass holders flooding in to Disneyland. And they're right, because that is exactly what's going to happen.
I could see a scenario where they have the $500 party on, say, Tuesday night, have limited soft opens Wednesday and Thursday for just anybody who happens to be in the parks, and then Friday switch to the reservation system that they have in place.
How have they handled major openings in the recent past? What would your feel on that be?
It's been a long time since they opened.
Massages himself.
Sorry, itchy. As Pixar Pier, there wasn't that big of a uproar about. I mean, and Cars Land has been a while. I think Cars Land. I think they did the. I'm trying to remember. I think
that was 2012.
They did AP previews for Cars Land.
So that would I think Cars Land is the closest comparison we have to this. That's the last time a major land.
They did AP previews with Cars Land, and so many of the annual pass holders had already seen it before it even opened. So I'm trying to remember. I think they may have done. I think we had to have reservation for it,
Well,
but
the
nothing. There's nothing to compare to what's going to happen in 2 months.
I agree. This goes on to say that the Parks blog is going to play it off in their upcoming announcement that a reservation is the only way to get into the land from May 31st to June 23rd, but that's not the real truth. They'll lowball the number of reservations available daily on purpose and allow in big pulses of non-reservation guests, so long as you don't mind waiting some on the Big Thunder Trail. But expect standby lines to be long on May 31st and on that opening weekend. And when we say long, I'm guessing
I'm talking like 6 hours,
8,
probably.
9,
Yeah.
10 hours
Yeah.
in line is what you're going to be looking at. So while it maybe end up being true that reservations are not going to be necessary completely, you want them anyway because
When Diagon Alley opened here, I know that's here versus there, but there I think that was the ride, the Escape from Gringotts ride had like an 8-hour wait just getting in line for the ride.
Well, I remember the opening. I think I mentioned this last week. I remember the opening of Wizarding World at Islands of Adventure. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe they did previews of that. What they ended up doing was selling a package that gave you access. They neglected to tell you until you walked into the park that you're only going to be allowed in there for like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And people were furious because we're thinking we spent all this extra money because these were premium packages. And you had to buy the package to get access. So you had to stay in a hotel. You had to buy passes. Whether you had an annual pass or not did not matter. You had to buy the package with passes, and it was a premium package, and you got a couple of gifts with it. I don't remember exactly what they were. And access, as the ad said, access to Wizarding World. They never specified you were only going to be allowed 2 hours. Didn't tell you that until they literally let you in the park and you were walking towards it.
Do you think Disney's doing that same thing with this? Because if you're staying in the hotels, you get the reservation. But do you think
but they're telling you up front that it's going to be a limited. It's a reservation required, and it's going to be a limited amount of time you're going to have access. They're being upfront about it. That was my problem with Universal.
Yeah.
They weren't. So, with the number of annual passes out there, I do not imagine there is any way possible they are not doing AP previews. And yes, they probably will do a party, but that's not going to cut it. They're going to have to do AP previews because annual pass holders out there are the coin of the realm. That's the money. They're upset. They get upset. Things will change.
They're the ones buying the merchandise.
They're the money. See, out here, they're not as big of a block. So we don't have the influence with Disney as annual pass holders that at World that you have at Land.
Well, that's if they did annual pass holder previews at all, I could foresee it even being a situation where they say, okay, we'll let you in the land, but unfortunately Smuggler's Run isn't going to be open, and you can maybe try some food and beverage.
Actually,
and merch,
this thread this post goes on to discuss that. Talking about Rise of the Resistance, which is the other ride that will not be open on either coast when these lands open up. We've got Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon ride. We have Rise of the Resistance, and Smuggler's Run is going to be open with both World and Land when the land opens, but Rise of the Resistance is not. So it goes on to say, also more trash talk about Rise of the Resistance and all its problems. It's still bad, real bad. An important part of a new attraction opening is something called the 72-hour test, or MDOT, multi-day operating test. An MDOT is when a ride system is operated continually for 72 hours straight, around the clock, for 3 days, nonstop. CMs operate the ride system in shifts. Imagineers are there also to monitor progress 24 hours a day. And facility CMs are on constant standby in case of downtimes or mechanical issues. The ride doesn't have to be perfect for the MDOT, and downtimes are expected. But it needs to operate at least 80% of the time for 72 hours straight to pass the test. Every Disney ride has to pass this critical test before it can continue on to final prep stages before opening for guests. Falcon has already passed, the Smuggler's Run has already passed its 72-hour test and has the green light from Walt Disney Imagineering and Disneyland Resort facilities. A May 31st opening is a cakewalk for Falcon, especially due to basically having 4 different turntables and thus 4 different ride systems that are all behaving as expected and planned. But Rise of the Resistance is nowhere near being able to even try the MDOT test and operate for 72 hours straight. Having Rise of the Resistance open by D23 Expo, something we were speculating last week, is a wild goal right now. But there's a scenario that Rise of the Resistance may be delayed until late fall or the 2019 holiday season. Maybe there will be a breakthrough and Rise of the Resistance will get up and running for paying guests later this summer, but no one is betting on it. The May 31st opening date for Galaxy's Edge was agreed to by Imagineering and management because Falcon is almost ready to go and is guest ready, with entertainment, foods, and stores on track to be ready by mid-May. And there's no sense in waiting for Rise of the Resistance to be ready months from now, and they could be capitalizing on this sooner. So I thought this was fascinating. I thought this was a really... And it sounds authoritative. Like I said, I don't know who this person is.
They sound like a cast member, though.
But it sounds like a cast member, and it sounds like a cast member who's aware of what's going on. And it makes sense. It kind of fits into what we do know. You know, we were asking, why are they opening it with only, one attraction? And this kind of answers that question for me. But Tom, in some of our discussions before, you were talking about what we don't know.
Right.
So what is it we don't know yet that we should or we want to?
Well, and one of the last...
Tom gets out his list.
One of the things in that last paragraph you just read, they were talking about entertainment is ready. We don't know anything about what entertainment is coming to the land. They shut down Jedi training at Disneyland. It's still opening. It's still open at Hollywood Studios, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't
so they
think
shut
it's
it
going
down
anywhere.
here, and speculation was that we're going to see something like that in Galaxy's Edge, but we don't know anything about that yet. I don't know that we've seen like casting calls. Sometimes we'll see casting calls in social media as people share, "Hey, Disney is casting for a Rey lookalike or a Luke Skywalker lookalike or something like that." We haven't seen any of that. So 2 months out, we don't know what kind of entertainment is coming. We also don't know who we're going to see in Galaxy's Edge. I'm assuming we'll see some meet and greets. Will we see Darth Vader? Is that out of story? I mean, are we going to see Boba Fett? What kind of meet and greets are going to be in that land? And then one of the things we talked about last week is Rhino going to be able to wear his costume?
That's a big deal for me to know. Because
I know.
I am legitimately invested in the storyline and everything, and I love the idea of that preview of merchandise they showed that you could dress like in the style of these characters without being a specific character, and that's what I like. And so, but if people are going to confuse you,
cosplay stuff.
That becomes my big question. If they are going to allow people in costume, how am I, as a Star Wars fan, but I'm not invested the way you are and some other folks are? How am I going to be able to differentiate who's the cast member playing a role and who's the guy who lives in his mother's basement that is living out his dream to be Luke Skywalker?
That's, kind of leading off
Other
onto
than
that.
the smell.
Leading off onto that in terms of the characters, this is where I hope that they take a page out of Universal's book with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and be pretty strict on it, that characters that from the movies will not appear as physical characters inside the land. So
You'll never see Harry or...
Exactly. If you want to see Harry Potter, you can walk up to Hogwarts Castle, and he'll be in the Defense Against the Dark Arts room, and you can see him there in the little video trick that they do with that. But leave it like that, because with what happens with that is then in universal sense, the team members are encouraged to take on the roles, and they know how they can operate in that. If you work at Forbidden Journey, you are a Hogwarts student. If you get asked about, are you friends with Harry Potter? Absolutely, right away, you're not allowed to say yes. You're not. There's already been the canon set up with the movies and books that if you're not in it, then you're not friends with him. But you know of him, and of course everyone knows Harry Potter, and you know his accomplishments, but that then enacts all the team members in the land to become part of the story and help guests along with that. So we already know that this is going to be an important part of Galaxy's Edge, since your storyline continues through there. So just to finish the last part of it, so for me, something then like, oh, well, Chewbacca, you can go meet him right over here, and it's just a standard meet and greet when everyone else in the land that you're interacting with is actually a character in this story and helping your story move along. That takes it out as soon as you get there.
Okay, but here's the thing, and I was having this discussion with somebody yesterday. Again, I love the movies, okay? I've seen them all multiple times. I saw them as a kid. I loved them as a kid. I was never, and still am not, that invested. So when I go, and I think I probably represent the majority of people who will be going to Galaxy's Edge on either coast, that, yeah, we enjoy the movies and stuff, but no, I am not going to be able to sit down and list...
Casual fan.
I'm a more casual fan. I'm a much bigger fan of Disney than I am of Star Wars. And the fact that those two things are now brought together does absolutely, inform my feelings about this new land opening. And I am very excited about it. But, where are they going to draw the line between keeping the hardcore fans happy and sticking to, as the term is, canon? And, because I'll tell you what, they want to see Darth Vader. They want to see Kylo Ren. They want to see Chewbacca. They want to see these characters they know from the movies. They're going to want those meet and greets. Now, that may not fit with the storyline of, the whole thing.
Yeah. I think the original release way back when at D23 was said when in the time frame where this takes place. So this is definitely in the newer trilogy. So I'm pretty definitive. Sorry, what?
Between 8 and 9.
Between 8 and 9. So there is not going to be like.
So there could be an old guy. There could be an old guy with a walker walking around that's Luke Skywalker.
Well, I don't know if you saw the end of 8. Do you remember? But that does mean they did specifically reference that you'd see like stormtroopers, and I know they're not going to let people dress like stormtroopers. They did release pictures of like the tags that people will wear. Their name tags look different than the regular ones in the park, but still maintain that recognizable shape of that's a Disney name tag. Like I saw it on Josh D'Amaro's Instagram, and then so like
God,
there'll be that.
I don't follow him on Instagram. I gotta do that.
Well, he's new to Instagram, so he hasn't been there much long. But he's the president of Disneyland. If you don't know,
guy,
but
awesome guy,
nice.
Josh D'Amaro.
Yeah. But anyway, he shared that name tag. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if you are a member of the First Order and you're in that militaristic outfit out and about, like, is having that Disney Black Spire Outpost name tag gonna look weird too? But that's the only way I can feel like you'll be able to identify who is a cast member and who isn't.
But the thing ultimately is, with any guest that shows up, they still have to. They're not going to be allowed to wear masks. So that's the ultimate. And you might be able to dress up like a Jedi all you want, or whatever costume you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be allowed to wear a mask. So if I see a guest wearing a full Stormtrooper getup and then no helmet on, I'm going to assume that that's just your standard guest.
I don't even think they're going to let them in the armor or anything like that. I think they're gonna. I know what you're saying though, because you're like, well, where's the where's that line? Like, because there's nothing that says your clothes can't be made out of like PVC material. So.
Yeah, they did it for Star Wars weekends enough, so we know that
That's true.
We know that it's possible, but then that does turn into the next step of, okay, so I also want to go ride this attraction or this attraction, and now the wardrobe that I chose to wear doesn't align with what is necessary of getting on these other attractions. So then you run into little issues like that.
From a story perspective or a safety perspective?
From a safety perspective.
Okay, because it's really hard for me to gauge where the nerd line is with you guys. So
I think
right, Tom, am I? And this is part of my larger concern.
I knew where he was going, but yeah.
Part of my larger concern.
I knew where he was going with safety, but
Part of my larger concern with this is that, and I think Universal did a very good job of walking the line. That as a casual fan of Harry Potter, like no robes or wands, like the movies, but I'm not dressing up, I'm able to go in there and enjoy it and not really give a crap whether this one knows Harry Potter or this one knows Hermione, or I can go in and enjoy it and be part of it and not feel like I'm missing something. And so like a lot of these concerns that the more hardcore fans have about these things are not going to matter to the majority of people who go there. And Disney follows the money.
Yeah.
Disney follows the money, and that's where the money is. So my question is not how they're going to invest in the storyline. How are they going to make sure 80% of the people that are going to experience this don't walk around going, what the hell is going on here? Because that's my concern.
Well, think about as we're talking about this, I'm starting to think like I know we're talking about the Disneyland one, but what happens in Orlando when they open the hotel? Because the hotel is specifically geared toward you living in that world, and it's been said that they want
I don't
you in
believe they have
costume.
broken ground on this hotel yet. I think the land has been cleared, but the land has been, but they haven't broken ground on this hotel yet, and I think it's very telling.
They're waiting.
That they haven't broken ground, because I think they are waiting to see.
Yeah.
There are so many variables here that are just outside anything they've done before.
Yeah.
You did not have any discussion about what was canon in Pandora. Okay?
Yeah.
So Disney is going into unusual territory, and this is for a company that built itself on its attention to detail and its theming, and that architecture and elements had to be true to the story. So there's a line here that Imagineering is having to straddle, and management is having to straddle, in terms of, how do you keep both sides of this equation happy without alienating either one? And given the passion on the side of fans, and because you take a look at virtually all the commentary being made right now, most of the discussion on our boards, most of the discussion anecdotally that I have with people is, how do I avoid this? How do I avoid Galaxy's Edge? People are canceling reservations that they made for the fall because they thought they were getting in before the crazy started. And now that they made this announcement, we're actually seeing people cancel.
We see it on every show we put out where we talk about Star Wars a lot. There is a big group of people out there who are Disney fans who definitely, they might see Star Wars movies, but they might not care about them at all. And I think that number is bigger than anyone really expects. That's being said, everyone's still going to check it out because it's the newest.
Everyone's going to check it out, but everybody's going to wait until the crazy dies. And I have a feeling the crazy is going to die a lot quicker than people realize. I think that we're, at least in world, I don't think we're going to see the kind of insanity. I think for the opening we are. But I think January of next year, it's going to be popular. It's going to do really well. I just don't think it's going to be the meltdown disaster everybody is foreseeing. I think enough people are being put off that it's affecting how Disney can book. I mean, look, even now through the summer, both coasts, plenty of availability.
Well, and
Plenty of availability.
And the question of like, oh, the pathways are kind of narrow in some areas and how will it fit everyone? I think eventually it will turn into a Pandora scenario where, yeah, a lot of people, hours and hours and lines of people might be waiting for the two attractions in there, but that doesn't mean that people necessarily want to congregate throughout the land and, you know, go into all the shops and look for all the details. It might not happen.
I think for as much detail as was put into Pandora, I think the detail and effort being put into Star Wars is probably double that. I mean, everything that I'm hearing is that Imagineering has just, I mean, above and beyond with what they're working on here in terms of the attractions, in terms of the theming, in terms of the architecture, and everything.
Well, this is the first property I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but the first property where you're like, okay, this came out, you know, Star Wars #1 came out in 1977, Episode 4, I know, not Episode 1, but, and I think to myself, that's, what is that, 30, 40 some odd years ago now, going on 50 years ago, and that's like we already talked about, it's generational, so like the investment has to be in this level of detail, because this is a part that will never ever go away, essentially, is what they're saying, because they're investing in a property that's as old as their theme park that they know will be around now for however many years, whether they choose to make any more movies or not, because we had a 15-year gap between the last movie and then Episode 1 or something, and so I just think about that like that this is a forever part of the park. Mm-hmm. It's not a part that someday they'll renovate and it'll be something else. I think this is forever this way.
Oh, absolutely. You know? There's no way you're going to invest this much money. I mean, billions and billions of dollars are being invested in building these areas on two coasts. So it better not be something that is going to get bulldozed in 20 years.
I just have a strong feeling that eventually the land is going to become a thing where you go there for either the main attractions, the food options that are there, and then the gift shops turn into something similar to what they are in the Wizarding World, where people will walk in to look at the details. You'll have the hardcore people wanting to go in and buy as much as possible, but the average person's going to walk in and kind of give it the once around and then just walk right out. And if they're not invested in waiting in line for the attractions or the lines that come with getting into like the cantina to try the alcoholic beverages and stuff, then I think they might just turn around and walk back out.
How soon do we see logo merchandise in the shops after all this big hoopla about it being themed and, you know, as if it belongs in the land? How soon do we see a Star Wars Episode 9 T-shirt in Galaxy's Edge?
I think that'll come quick. It was something similar to that with Pandora. I still don't remember the exact details. I could have swore at the media preview for Pandora, they told us that any merchandise that was sold inside there would not be available anywhere else. Someone else heard the same thing. Another person said, no, the bags that you get in Pandora, that will be exclusive to Pandora, but they'll sell merchandise other places. Inevitably, though, Pandora merchandise started to spread out throughout there. So, and I think the same could be said in terms of Star Wars merchandise with bringing stuff that doesn't fit.
I don't know, but Tom, were you saying how long before merchandise appears in Galaxy's Edge that isn't specific to that theme, is what he's saying?
Well, it works both ways.
It'll say Star Wars Galaxy's Edge on it, whereas right now they're saying you wouldn't find a shirt like that in there because you're supposed to be in the world, so it can't be self-referential.
And this kind of becomes where you draw the line between that and what the vast majority of your visitors are going to want to buy. Or do they do that? In shops that are Galaxy's Edge adjacent?
Yeah, right. But they still have Tomorrowland that is just sitting there as a big pile of crap. No offense, Tom.
Oh, stop.
Disneyland's Tomorrowland. I mean, hey, I love Space Mountain. I love Autopia.
I love a lot about it. I wonder why I ever hired him. Look, I understand what you're saying, but I would not call anything in Disneyland crap. Any area of Disneyland crap at all.
Tom, Tomorrowland?
It's crap.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No. Maybe that's the fanboy in me.
I can go to the superhero party by myself, you know.
I think that might have to be the case. They don't appreciate it.
Hey, that's over in California Adventure. That's a different ball game.
Well, I mean, there could be some easy things to fix it. I mean, the Astro Orbiter is in the wrong place. It needs to go away. It's a big traffic hazard. And then something's got to be done eventually with the People Mover tracks. What happens to Star Wars Launch Bay when Galaxy's Edge opens? Going back to what Craig was talking about with the characters, I could see the characters still being there, because that's where they're doing the meet and greets now for Kylo Ren and Chewbacca and Darth Vader and Rey. And then what happens with Star Tours is it out of place now that Galaxy's Edge is open? Now, your Star Tours is right outside Galaxy's Edge?
No, not exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's
like a block over.
Technically, you have Star Tours, and then you have Grand Avenue with Muppet Vision and
So it's not even-
Pizzerizzo and Baseline, and then Galaxy's Edge.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not
So not exactly. Not exactly. But, this is, I have a feeling these are going to be things that we are talking about for a while leading up to the opening. I think we're going to be hearing things each week, seeing things each week, and I think for every question that gets answered, 3 new questions come up. So, all right, that's enough of that. That's enough Galaxy's Edge. Let's switch gears. There was another thread I found on our Disneyland forums that I thought was, for folks that are, I'm trying to get this to open up, and it doesn't want to. Why don't you want to? Hold on a second. A lot of folks are planning their first trip out or don't go out very often. And this was a thread started by Smiles33, who recently had a quick trip out to Disneyland and shared some tips I thought were just important to drive home. The stuff we've talked about before, but I really like the way this was put together. So, number one, and I don't know whether Smiles33 is male or female, so they, number one on their list was use the Disneyland app, which I entirely agree with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a she.
It's a she?
I'm assuming because she has a husband and 2 kids.
Okay, so you're just being you're being so
assume
now
that.
we know we know that Tom is really homophobic. But okay,
The odds.
we'll go with the odds, Tom.
Well, let me look at the picture. Hold on. Go ahead.
So use the Disneyland app, and if you are a Walt Disney World person going out to Disneyland, there are big differences between the Disneyland app and the Walt Disney World. That mainly that theirs tends to work where ours doesn't, and the number of times I have problems with the My Disney Experience app.
Every time I've used it in the last 2 months, it never opens correctly. I can never see any of the stuff. It always crashes, and I keep updating it, so I don't know what the problem is. I'm just like, another one you just open. Here's my fast pass. Boom, scan your ticket, scan my ticket.
And that's one of the biggest reasons to use Disneyland, the Disneyland app, is the access to MaxPass. And if you're not familiar with MaxPass, Disneyland is still on the legacy FastPass system, the old one we used to have, where you can get paper Fast Passes. Their version of MaxPass is basically just allowing you to get your Fast Pass from the app. Right. It's not like ours where 60 days before or 30 days before you can go ahead and make your Fast Pass reservations. This has to be done that day in the park. And
It can be either one of the parks though. So you can make You just have to have entered one of the 2 parks, and you can make it. For
you don't have to
everywhere.
be actually in the park. You have to have been in the park that day.
Yeah.
So you can do it from your hotel. If you go in the morning, scan your ticket, and then go back to your hotel and make your fast pass.
But the important thing about this, if you play it right, even on the most crowded days,
Yeah.
you can see everything.
Yeah, we actually did a trip like this. I went with Eli in December, like right before Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know," but I'd never seen the Christmas stuff before, and we did the same thing. Flew out on a Thursday night, came back on a Sunday afternoon, and so we had Friday and Saturday, and I was like, "We're getting you this pass because it's included with mine, and we're gonna do this." And I started out and just set an alarm right around when it was expiring, and I'm telling you, every hour I had something to do.
Now, for those who may not have ever used the Legacy FastPass system, the way it would work is you go up to the attractions FastPass area, you put your ticket in, it issues you a paper pass that tells you what time block you can come back in. It's usually an hour window, so let's say between 1 and 2. But it will also tell you that you're able to make your next FastPass reservation at a certain time.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be 12:40. So that when Rhino talks about setting a timer, to remind him that, okay, the window for me booking my next FastPass is opened. So you do that. You have one FastPass, you book the next one as soon as the window opens, you get almost everything.
And this actually saves you a little bit. So the FastPass system in World, I feel like all the machines and stuff were right where the attraction was. That's not really the case in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like if you need a Cars Land, Radiator Springs FastPass, you kind of were getting it in the Bugs Land area. So it can be very confusing because you'll go all the way up to the attraction thinking like I'm going to go get FastPass here, and it's not even there. So it saves you that too. So. And
this kind of ties into number 2, using the app. Take advantage of mobile ordering. It works so well out there. You go ahead on the app, and it's very similar to what we're doing out here. I think it works in more places out there. We've expanded it pretty well.
Yeah.
Out here, so I got to be fair about that. But you go ahead and put in what you want and submit it, and then as soon as you get to the restaurant, you say I'm here, and then it lets you know when your food's ready. And especially for places the quick service that tend to be more popular. Bengal barbecue can get a little crazy. I use it there all the time, and it's great. Like within 5 minutes of getting there, I have my food.
And what's great about it too is not only you don't really have to, you can think of it ahead of time. Okay, we're going to start walking this way. Let's make the order. Or you can get to the place, like if you were going to Bengal barbecue, and be like, all right, I'm going to wait in line. It sometimes will be faster than just waiting in line. So
it will be. It can be, but it's also, as opposed to, okay, you save the table, I'm going to go get in line.
Yeah.
Everybody can just sit at a table, or if you can find one, and order your food, and then just go up and get it when it's ready. This one can't be said enough. Wake up early and get into the park as soon as you're able to do it. Max Pass in conjunction with Rope Drop, you'll see everything.
Yeah.
You'll see everything. You'll get on every attraction that you want to get on. This includes, if you're staying on site and you're getting the extra magic hour, that you get in an hour before everybody else, right? It's an hour, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're going to hit, a California Adventure, for example.
Yeah.
You're going to hit.
You could do
Toy Story Mania. You're going to hit
Radiator Springs.
Springs.
Guardians
of the Galaxy. You're going to be able to do those all pretty much in the first hour you're in the park.
Yeah. This is especially useful tip for Disneyland Park, because I feel like they have more attractions that don't accept FastPass than California Adventure. So something like Alice in Wonderland, you could go and make your FastPass, or even Peter Pan. I know that's very popular. You can make your FastPass for something else, and you'll have the window in between when you can use and make another FastPass is very small in the morning. So it's almost like you make it and you can instantaneously go on it and be ready in like 30 minutes to get another one. Wait in line for Alice in Wonderland or one of those, because otherwise during the day, those are going to back up, So make the most of utilizing getting the FastPass and then waiting in line for the ones that don't have it. Get those out of the way early on in the morning.
Right. I thought this was an interesting one. Make sure you are being a defensive walker. and stay alert for people who stop suddenly or rush behind you and then clip your ankles with their stroller, wheelchair, feet. I was clipped by a wheelchair when the man pushing it was distracted and staring up at the windows on Main Street. He didn't realize I had stopped because a family in front of me stopped. I limped for a good 20 minutes after that as it really hurt my ankle. I just hated being in the park after lunch and in the hotel room. During the busiest times when you're dodging strollers, ECVs, and families who stop in the middle of narrow walkways, oh God, like in Frontierland near Pirates, to chat, consult a map. This has always driven me crazy. Like, be self-aware.
Step aside.
Be self-aware. You're not the only person in the park. So if you have to stop and look at the map, or you have to stop and look at your phone, or you got to walk, just step aside. Because the rest of us don't care. The rest of us don't care. You don't know where you are.
I always try to find like a trash can or a tree or something that people are going to go around anyway.
Yeah.
And pull over.
And this is also a very good point. She stayed at the Grand Californian and had extra magic hours for 3 days. Now, for those not familiar, Grand Californian is actually more or less located in California Adventure, and there is an entrance into California Adventure from the hotel. There's a turnstile and a security check. And I have seen this so many times. Now, in the morning, first thing in the morning, you have to be a resort guest. You have to be you have to be staying at the Grand. You got to show your room key to use that line. That's not too bad. It's when they are, after it opens.
Yeah, and they let
anybody can go through there. It can take forever.
Yeah.
It can take forever. The other bag check is the one going out through the convention center and goes into downtown Disney. Depending, like, first thing in the morning, if I'm using extra magic hours and I'm staying at the Grand, I'm using the entrance right into the park, because that will usually no.
And that's what she's saying. If it's extra magic hours, don't use that entrance in the Grand. Go through downtown Disney, because there are a ton more turnstiles at the main entrance, and you'll get in quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. On the side.
Every time I don't know. Every time I've used it at extra magic hour, it's been fine. It's when it was open to everybody that line could get that it could end up taking forever. But I've also had that experience. I've also seen the line going into downtown Disney extending back into the convention center.
Yeah. I would give you this tip too if you're staying not on property. Take the Lyft or Uber, or you can walk around and go through the downtown Disney entrance.
If you're staying off site, do not go through.
Don't go through Harbor Boulevard side, because that's like where everybody goes and where the buses drop everyone off, and there'll be like nobody on the other side.
If you're a Walt Disney World person, you've never been to Disneyland, and you're staying off site, and you go through the entrance that Rhino was talking about now, the one on Harbor Boulevard, you will witness things you never imagined possible. Like, I'm talking about a 90-minute wait to get through security.
Yep.
I'm talking about lines that boggle the mind.
Yeah.
So he's talking about getting, get dropped off at the Disneyland Hotel.
And there's sometimes no guests without bags line. So you're stuck in that line no matter what.
A lot of times I've seen that.
Don't think like, oh, well, I don't bring a bag, I'll be fine.
Get dropped off at downtown Disney or something.
Pay the $5, go over the other side and go through there.
It's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it. The other one, if you can, time your Fast Pass to enjoy certain rides at night. I agree with this. Cars Land at night. I love seeing Cars Land at night and stop using Fast Pass for daytime Radiator Springs racer rides. Instead, I kept an eye on the app and would grab a Fast Pass after sunset. I think there are certain rides. Personally, like Splash Mountain, I prefer at night.
I like the Incredicoaster at night, because you can see all the lights and the effects in the tunnels a lot better at night than during the day.
Incredicoaster's another one. What about you, Tom? Which rides go better at night?
Thunder Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
I think it's probably just urban legend, but I've heard that the grease warms up throughout the day, so it seems like the ride is faster at night.
Oh,
Like the grease on the wheels. But even without that, I love that one at night. And if you can time it right when the fireworks are going off.
Yeah, that's cool.
the next two are just good ideas regardless. If you're on a budget, pack snacks to bring in with you, especially if you've got kids. We love snacking on certain Disney treats, churros, Dole Whip floats. So I still indulge a bit yet for times when you're just a little hungry. Non-perishable snacks will help you save money. This is also important if you're on a diet or with dietary restrictions. I can get very peckish in the parks. If I don't have something that is on my diet with me, I am probably going to eat something that is not on my diet. But also pre-buying some Disney souvenirs, as the stuff in the parks can get expensive. One pair of mini ears costs nearly $30. Her husband, assuming her, bought a 3-pack of licensed Disney ears off Amazon for $25. Stop and take breaks regularly. There's often pressure to make the most of a very expensive trip. Yet just sitting outside Guardians of the Galaxy and listening to the good music instead of Disney music, which I normally like, but not after we've heard it the entire time we're there, as I call it, bush music. It's a nice place to relax. And she's right. The music outside Guardians is...
It's some from the soundtrack, some from the time period, and it's just and they'll do a show out there every now and then too. So you get to see, kind of get to watch, and just.
Well, especially if you're a visitor of a certain age, it's your music. So I love that area over there because, it's all music I grew up with.
Yeah.
So some great stuff in that thread. Lots of great stuff over on our Disneyland forums, disboards.com. And Tom, the Disneyland forums are a top 5 forum now.
Nice.
On Disboards. Very, very busy. Lots of experts. Lots of experts that know far more than I do on far more subjects. So great place. You're planning a trip. Head out to the Disneyland forums. And that is going to do it for our show for this week, folks. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week with another edition of the Diz Unplugged. Have a great week, everybody.